Welcome to a Play to Win set review where we talk about Kamigawa and cEDH. I'm Dylan.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Cameron. This set review is brought to you by Moxfield.
If you'd like to follow along with all the cards that we're looking at today, you can check the Moxfield deck list down below.
So we're going to get started right away. We're going by color and then sorted by converted mana cost from there. So our first card we're going to talk about is March of Otherworldly Light. This is 1 white and an X for an instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may exile any number of white cards from your hand. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. And then you can exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment with mana value X or less. So first thing I want to say is that the art on this card is that coffin carrying guys meme. It's exactly what this is. Total inspiration from that.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
This one I think is a fantastic card. I think all of these marches are specifically good in like ad nauseum decks, especially if you're in like low color ad nauseum decks. One, it doesn't hit a lot off of the actual ping from the ad nauseum, but if you're post ad nauseum, you're going to have a lot of extra cards that you might not know what to do with, and you're not going to be able to cast all of them. This one is a really good way to kind of convert some of those extra resources into removal spells.
Yeah, I mean, if you exile 1 card, that means that this CMC would be 3, and oh no, never mind. I thought you could get around Rule of Law, but it has to be X or less. So you have to have 2 cards to exile for it to hit Rule of Law specifically.
Yes, yeah.
A Rule of Law, the card. Okay.
Yeah, Rule of Law, the card. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can exile Rule of Law to it. I don't know if that's what you want to be doing, but you could.
So how good most of these March cards are in cEDH is kind of directly tied to how well the X value of one card exiled, meaning 2, is going to be. Because realistically, you almost never want to ditch 2 cards from your hand and pay 1. So you're kind of looking at 1 and exile a card. What does it do at that level? This one is exile something with CMC 2 or less, which is pretty good. It's
Underworld
not
Breach.
phenomenal, but
Yeah,
Underworld
that's
Breach.
true.
Yeah, I can in fact think of a lot of 2 CMC or
There's
less
a lot-
targets in
there's a lot of-
cEDH.
Yeah,
as it happens.
White does have a lot of removal. I mean, a lot of removal options. So who knows if this will make the cut? But I think this one is close enough, and being able to flex it and get rid of extra things and convert your resources, I think, is a good thing.
Agreed. We're going to move on to the next card in the list, which is Swift Reconfiguration. This is a 1 white mana for an enchantment aura. I always say that wrong. Flash, and then you can enchant creature or vehicle. Enchanted permanent is a vehicle artifact with crew 5, and it loses all other card types.
So this one combos with Devoted Druid. It makes Devoted Druid no longer a creature, it's a vehicle now, and you can give it as many -1/-1 counters as you'd like, and it won't die since it's not a creature. So you can immediately, since it's not a creature, it doesn't have summoning sickness, tap it right away and make infinite green. That's
Nice.
a 3 mana combo for infinite mana in Thrasios colors, and in very easily tutorable colors for white and green creatures and auras.
So I feel like you could already do that with like Vizier of Remedies and Melira, and that's not going on.
But that's 4 mana.
That's true.
And Swift Reconfiguration is has Flash, and Devoted Druid is
Oh,
a
that's
mana
true.
druid in its own right.
Yeah,
that's
here's
true.
the other part of this, right? These cards do something on their own. There's no reason you wouldn't play Devoted Druid, and Swift Reconfiguration is actually weirdly capable of being a removal spell in some niche circumstances.
situations,
Swords to
absolutely.
If you're
Plowshares.
against, yeah, well, it's not Swords to Plowshares.
No, but like
But-
in certain circumstances, like you're saying, it can
Right.
act
If
like
you're against
one.
a Winota deck and they're trying to attack with their 1 creature so that they can get the triggers rolling, and you reconfigure it so that it's no longer a creature, you're in good shape. They probably can't crew 5 that.
Yep.
And it's not going to be the only time that something being a creature is the thing that matters about that thing. So there are times that you're going to be able to use this for removal, which makes including it a lot less painful than including something like Melira. So
True.
that combo definitely did just get better.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways you can go infinite, and you can dump that into Thrasios. There's a billion ways to do it. This one is 3 mana for 2 cards, and I think that's pretty good and worth talking about. And I'm pretty sure that this will see some kind of play.
Yeah, definitely. I like that one a lot. So we're going to move on then. Our next card is going to be Banishing Slash. This is 2 white mana for a sorcery. It says destroy up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, or tapped creature. Then if you control an artifact or an enchantment, create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance.
It's the worst Assassin's Trophy ever, but it's it does a similar role in a mono white deck, maybe?
I think it's close enough. Tapped creature really matters because it's not going to hit opposing stacks creatures that aren't attacking or anything like that.
And it's not an instant.
And it's not an
too.
instant, yeah. I think this is one of those things that feels close enough because it is very flexible, but it's too slow.
The next one is Light Paws, Emperor's Voice. This is 1 and a white for a legendary creature, Fox Advisor. That's a 2/2. Whenever an aura... How do you say that?
Aura.
Aura. Why
Or-
can't I get this?
Or
Have you
Aura.
ever heard
Or
someone say aura?
Nobody says aura, ever. They just say, I'm
Yes,
going to put
they
this
do.
enchantment on a...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's enchantment.
Whenever you cast an aura... That's not even what this fucking card says now. It says aura like 6 times in this card.
you want me to take
You
this
It's
one?
like
better,
playing
you
a
better
joke
put
on
him
me.
saying aura in there, though, like, for the love of God.
Whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, if you cast it, you may search your library for an aura card with mana value less than or equal to that aura with a different name than each aura you control. Put that card onto the battlefield attached to Light Paws, Emperor's Voice, then shuffle. It's a lot of words, but I think I get what it's trying to say.
It's a tutor engine. I'm not sure exactly how powerful this one is going to be, but this one is more because I think more and more pieces are coming into play for Enchantress-style decks. I think this is just another piece for the Enchantress style decks. Every aura that you're putting on Light Paws finds you another aura. It's a powerful effect. I don't know what to do with it though.
I think it's pretty good in the 99. I don't think it's a powerful commander, but for those people who really want to play Voltron style decks and hate equipment for some reason, that like here's your thing. Like,
Mono white aura commander, this has got to be the best one if you're doing that.
I think it's
Yeah.
also worth noting that it tells you that you search for an aura, but it does not have to be a creature aura. So there is the possibility that you can always search for an aura that has an enter the battlefield effect, have it enter, and then when it tries to be attached to Light Paws, it will die as a state-based action, leaving the ETB on the field. So this works great for things like Abundant Growth or other green auras that enchant lands and draw you a card when they enter, if what you want is the card draw. It does not work great for things like Chained to the Rocks or other auras that try and exile a creature, because they'll disappear before the ETB resolves and not actually do anything. But it's a nice thought.
Definitely agreed.
Yeah, well said.
The next card is Lion Sash. This is 1 and a white for an artifact creature equipment cat. It's a 1/1, and you can pay 1 white mana to exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a permanent card, put a +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash, and it has Reconfigure of 2. This is a new ability that says for 2 mana you can attach target creature you control. Attach to target creature you control or unattach from a creature. Reconfigure only as a sorcery. While it's attached, it's not a creature.
So reconfigure is basically like equip. It just
Yeah.
gives the creature equip, but because it's creature, so
It's
it's
equipped
different.
but different, yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
Cameron,
like
you,
the bestow,
you
basically.
mispronounced the name of the card again. It's pronounced Scavenging Ooze.
The white scavenging ooze is here. Although scavenging ooze doesn't see play in cEDH, I think if scavenging ooze were white, it might in a white mono white stacks deck, which are coming a lot more popularity, or low color white stacks builds. I think this is a powerful effect.
I think so too. I mean, you do already have Rest in Peace, but what Rest in Peace can't do is beat the shit out of your opponent.
Yeah, I know you're
as you're
completely right.
stacking
Yeah,
out the
and
board.
I love stacks pieces like this, stacks pieces that can affect your opponent but are also threats in their own right, because you're attacking on multiple axes, which makes it difficult for your opponents to stop you.
Yeah, it seems good. I will say, I think its worst use case, which is that you pay 3 to exile the first card from that graveyard, is not good. But if you want the power in addition, probably gets you there.
I mean, that was also not good in Modern Jund, paying 3 mana to get the first thing, so I can't even imagine what that's like in cEDH.
Yeah, but if you untap with it, it steamrolls quickly.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
There's
and
stuff-
you're in a deck that allows you to untap.
probably with Timna, probably with other, things like that.
Right, yeah, exactly. Our next card is Spirited Companion. This
boy.
is, oh yeah, definitely the best boy. 1 and a white for a 1/1 enchantment creature dog. When Spirited Companion enters the battlefield, draw a card. Hello, strictly better Elvish Visionary?
I don't know. Elvish Visionary is an elf, so that's kind of hard to say. Just it's creature typing. But enchantment, that Enchantress deck that we're talking
guess it
about,
depends on what
it's
you want,
getting
yeah.
more pieces. Slowly but surely, Enchantress will become a viable strategy. Maybe this goes in that deck. I'm not
Sithis
sure.
is already a deck.
Yeah, Sithis is a deck. I don't know if Sithis wants this. Does Sithis want this? Maybe. Drawing extra cards, probably be good.
It gets you 2 cards off of Sithis, which for 2 mana is not terrible.
Cantrip for a body and get 2 cards? Yeah, that's not bad.
Especially if you're on the theme. If it's the, you know what I mean, you're an enchantment, so it's going to give you extra value.
All right, the next card we're going to talk about is Cloud Steel Kirin. This is 2 and a white for a 3/2 artifact creature equipment Kirin. It has flying, an equipped creature has flying, and you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. Also reconfigure 5.
So when I first read this card, I thought that ability was just on it no matter what, and I was like, wow, 3 mana for this effect? This is a fucking game changer, and then I realized you had to reconfigure it. I do, however, think it's still borderline playable in Arden stacks decks, because Arden can put this thing onto things for free, and then your opponents can't win with Dust Oracle anymore. Which
And then
seems
you
good.
have a 3 mana Platinum Angel.
Yeah, and then it has flying too, so it kind of adds value in like specifically equipment-based stack strategies. This seems good.
It seems good, and then I mean, in casual world, I think it's definitely gonna be fun to play with decks that are already running things like Leonin Shikari and Pure Steel Paladin. I mean, because if you can equip it for free at instant speed, then as long as you have a creature, you don't lose the game. Now you're in worship territory, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really hoping that they print more of this kind of effect geared towards cEDH, though I know it will have negative implications in casual because I think it'll see a lot of play, but maybe this type of effect is good in casual. I'm not really sure. We need more of this in cEDH, though. Just like 3 mana of this would be fantastic. Oh my god.
There is Gideon of the Trials, who arguably it's close. Like, he sees play in like some of the mono white decks, but like doesn't really see play anywhere else. But like the flexibility of this being in equipment, like Arden Tana is a deck. Arden Timna can be something around. Like, you have a bunch of options with the partner mechanic for that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We're going to talk about Drum Bellower next. This is 2 and a white for a 2/1 creature spirit. It is flying, and it says untap all creatures you control during each player's untap step. Much worse than Seedboard Muse.
Quite a bit.
I want to get that out there. This is not like... Just because you're Thrasios Timna does not necessarily mean you can play Drum Bellower and have it do the same thing. However, if there is a deck that I feel like would be able to use this best, it would be like a Thrasios Timna kind of mid-range style.
I slightly disagree in that I think this is a pretty good candidate for Hulane.
Ooh, that's a good point, too.
However you say it. Because you want to untap Hulane, and the ability is already there, but being able to throw your dorks in because you're going to have a lot of creatures in that deck, it's probably one of its best use cases. But to my knowledge, that deck doesn't already run Quest for Renewal, which is the green enchantment that does almost the same thing, comes down for less mana, but takes a little longer to turn on. So I think it's kind of borderline playable there, and it's hard to say if there's a real standout deck where it definitely slots in.
That quest gets a counter whenever you tap a creature, right?
A creature for any reason.
And I feel like if there was a deck, you're right, if there was a deck that would use that is tapping mana dorks consistently or attacking or like tapping Chulane or Hullen, like, again, this would be the Drum Bellower deck, but if it's already not playing the quest, I think that's a good point. I don't know where you would slot this in or what you would take out.
But I do think Quest is always close. And I mean, this is white, so it wouldn't work. But I'm always surprised that Quest never, ever sees play in Selvala. Because it's pretty close.
Yeah,
it's pretty close.
Well, honestly, Vigilance is also really good, which this basically gives. If you're in a creature-based strategy, Vigilance is just powerful.
But going back to Chulane even, like, this would trigger off a Chulane, though, too, right? So, like, this, where the quest doesn't give you a draw, this would.
That's true. That's true.
I think we've said more than enough about that card, actually. So we're going to talk about the Restoration of Ijango. I'm gonna keep apologizing for all of the pronunciations of the cards that I can't say. Iganjo,
I would say.
Iganjo. This is an enchantment saga. Chapter 1 says, search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle. Chapter 2 says you may discard a card. When you do, return target permanent card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard and return it to the battlefield tapped. And then Chapter 3 says, exile this saga, then return it to the battlefield transformed under your control. And it transforms into Architect of Restoration. This is a enchantment creature, Fox Monk. It's a 3/4 with Vigilance. And it says whenever Architect of Restoration attacks or blocks, create a 1/1 spirit creature token.
So white Cultivate. We got a white Cultivate. 3 mana to get a land into play later rather than sooner, but it effectively does that. You can discard the land in the second mode and then return it with that very same mode, so your land will come in tapped on the after turn. But that's really the only reason why I want to talk about this card, because over a long enough time, if white gets enough of these medium power things, white's overall power rises in Commander quite a bit, and this, I think, is a part of that puzzle.
I don't understand why they decided they had to exile it and have it return. I think, for the most part, these are low power enough that the creature could effectively have haste. Instead of exile it, just transform it. Just say it flips, and then that creature can attack or block this turn. And that would make this one much better, because then it actually does something on the other side right
That's
away.
funny, because listening to Mark Rosewater's podcast about Kamigawa, like, they specifically mention why they did exile, and like giving it haste is one of the reasons why they did not want to just have it transform
did that make it
immediately.
Too powerful? It was just too confusing.
I don't remember exactly, but they definitely have reasons, and they address that.
I wonder if it was like a suspend thing, where like when the creature comes back from suspend, the creature gets haste, and that wasn't super intuitive. And I think they have talked about how players were confused about that, so maybe they wanted to just like make it not like suspend, like the creature just comes in, so you assume it can't attack for new players. Maybe that's the reason.
Who knows?
I don't know.
I wish it was the other way, but
Yeah,
you know.
of course. Yeah,
Exactly. All right, so next card, our last white card. By the way, many white cards to talk about in this set. Very nice. Touch the Spirit Realm is 2 and a white for an enchantment that says, when Touch the Spirit Realm enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature until Touch the Spirit Realm leaves the battlefield. It also has Channel, which is not a new mechanic, but the first time we're talking about it. For channel 1 and a white, you can discard Touch the Spirit Realm, exile target artifact or creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step.
Right, so I put this on here really just for the channel ability. This is the first channel time that we're talking about today for Kamigawa. I think channel is really good, especially on removal. Although this isn't permanent removal, it does get rid of the necessary thing that you need to get rid of right away. Specifically, I'm thinking about this card. Now, 3 mana is a bit, but things like Ad Nauseam decks, they could never before Ad Nauseam into a Rule of Law because you couldn't do anything after you cast the Ad Nauseam. But now with enough channel effects like this that you can get rid of a Rule of Law after your Ad Nauseam and it doesn't count as a spell, that's powerful. I don't know if this one actually will see play, but 2 mana to get rid of a permanent for 1 turn, that's something that we look for in 2 mana bounce effects a lot of the times. That's what it's doing often. So this one might be powerful for the same reason.
If only there was another channel bounce effect that you would be able to draw into with Ad Nauseam.
There are probably better channel effects that do this exact same thing. But
Ooh, are they also islands?
more than one are good.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I do like this in casual though too. I have to say it's very much better than O-Ring.
Yeah, sure.
O-Ring
Hands down.
can target any permanent, so it's not quite hands down because it is more limited on what it can target. But the flexibility to channel and the fact that in certain circumstances it's also blink of an eye and can protect your own creatures to exile them and return them.
That's a great point.
Puts a lot of flexibility on this card, and I think I will run this over O-Ring type effects in casual decks from here on out.
I think this is one of the better versions of that O-Ring effect, yeah.
Next card, we're going to move into blue next. So we're going to talk about March of Swirling Mist. This is X and a blue for an instant, and it says, as an additional cost to cast the spell, you may exile any number of blue cards from your hand. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. The effect is up to X target creatures phase out.
For the same reason that the white one is good, this one is good, but for it is much better than that. In Ad Nauseam decks, you're going to have a lot more blue spells, so a lot of times you'll be able to, for 1 blue mana, exile like 3 or 4 extra blue cantrips or counter spells you can't exactly cast to phase out 3 or 4 stacks creatures. That effect seems really, really powerful.
Yeah, it removes a ton of stacks creatures. I think that's the best use case, and there's many decks that make use of that. As a Kirin player, where we very often have a ton of excess mana, I'm super excited about this because in that context, you don't even necessarily need to exile the cards. It's just a great option to be able to do that. But it can also be used aggressively. I think there's a lot of creature combos that really you can be interrupted pretty easily if you target multiple things at once, and they are not able to protect more than one creature at one time. So
Mother of Runes can only protect one thing.
Yeah, Mother of Runes can only protect one thing. Sure, Temur Sabertooth type combos. If you point this at enough of the pieces at once and phase them out, I think you can stop a win on the spot. So I think this has enough flexibility that I'm certainly going to at least give it a try.
Important to note that it's phasing out, so that things do come back. It's only temporary removal, but it's very good temporary removal. Multiple things for very little mana. Powerful effect.
Agreed. All right, next card is Moonsnare Prototype. This is 1 blue for an artifact that says you can tap it and tap an untapped artifact or creature you control to add colorless mana. It also has Channel, and for 4 and a blue, you can discard it and have the owner of target non-land permanent put it on top or bottom of their library.
Springleaf Drum is a card that sees play. This does something similar to Springleaf Drum.
And that is the floor, is that this is
Right.
a worse Springleaf Drum.
Slightly worse because it makes colorless mana, but the channel effect, although 5 mana is a lot of mana, again, it's basically uncounterable, and late game, it can do something that's when you have a ton of mana and you're in your Thrasios deck and you have 13 mana, you don't need another 14th mana, you can use the channel ability to help get rid of something. I think this is good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've seen this talked about for Urza, which could be really good because it just gives you another way to interact with the board, which Urza, if really falls to things like Collector Oof, so you really do want something like that. It's an online permanent, right? So like Rule of Law can get taken care of too. 5 mana is a lot for that effect. We see this effect on
Submerge. But Submerge can do it for free.
Right,
also.
Submerge can also do it for free, and this doesn't really have a way to do that. But like at least in Urza, this can also act as like a 1 mana rock at the same time. I don't know. I'm going to think about it. I might test it out, but I don't know if it's going to be like a mainstay.
Yep, won't cut it for Kirin because I think the colors are just too important. But 5 mana for an uncounterable Submerge is pretty good. And it's not uncounterable, but Channel is close,
Roughly
man.
on
It is
I
close.
paid 5 mana for a bunch of submerges before.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't
It's
feel
fine.
good, but
Yeah.
like if you need to, you need to.
Yeah.
Right.
Great. So that's Moonsnare Prototype. The next one we're going to talk about is Network Disruptor. This is 1 blue for a 1/1 artifact creature, Moonfolk Rogue. It has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, tap target permanent.
1 mana flying creatures can see play in various decks. Edric and Eureka. I'm not sure if this one will see play in those decks, but it might.
You have another option. I feel like at some point, Edric or Eureka are just going to become like as many 1 mana 1/1 flying creatures that they keep printing in blue that come up almost every set now.
Yeah.
But that's what this is for, and you won't see it anywhere else. Next card is Thousand-Faced Shadow. This is 1 mana for a 1/1 human ninja. It is ninjutsu for 2 and 2 blue. It also has flying, and when it enters the battlefield from your hand, if it's attacking, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. The token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking.
This is an auto-clued in Eureka, I think. I think this is a complete all-star in that deck. Although Network Disruptor probably doesn't make the cut, at least for me, it hasn't in my Eureka list. That one might play in other decks maybe, but Thousand-Faced Shadow is like, it's exactly what you want. A 1 mana flying creature that is also a ninja and can do other things with the ninjutsu ability. This is just incredible in Eureka.
It's everything you wanted to do in that
And
deck.
it is phenomenal in 0 other decks.
Yeah,
Yep.
0 other decks. Besides
Very
maybe
excited.
Edric, who won another
Maybe
1
Edric.
mana
Maybe
flyer.
Edric,
They
yeah.
want another one. This one is a 1 mana flyer that does other
That's
stuff.
true, because what it would allow you to do in Edric is make a copy of another one of your other flyers, and then boom, you get another card.
Yeah, it does extra. I don't know.
All right, well, I'm going to play it in Edric. You'll never see that happen. So our next card is Moon Circuit Hacker. This is 1 in a blue for an enchantment creature, Human Ninja 2/1. It has ninjutsu for 1, and when it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card unless Moon Circuit Hacker entered the battlefield this turn.
Another cheap ninja that gives you card advantage. I don't have to say much more about it than that. It might see play in Eureka.
Ninjutsu 1 pretty appealing too.
Ninjutsu 1
1
pretty
mana.
appealing.
Ninjutsu 1 is
One mana
appealing. 2 CMC and Eureka is not as appealing. But you know what card is appealing? Is the Reality Chip.
This is a real card.
This is 1 in a blue for a legendary artifact creature, Equipment Jellyfish. What the fuck? It's a 0/4.
Oh, tiny. They have to make the letters to make
Right?
that fit.
It's squeezed in.
How is that not a joke?
0.2 font.
funny.
There's so many other things that they said like in years past. Oh, we can't do this
You
with
can do
cards
whatever you
because we
want. Shut
can't
up.
fit this. Yeah, you totally can.
Can we just fixate on the jellyfish a little more?
Oh, yeah.
Did either of you read the lore for this set?
No.
I hear that this is what allows the Wanderer to stay put. The Wanderer normally has to. There's something.
No.
No?
No. It helps the Wanderer stay put a little more, but it is not effective and the Wanderer disappears within less than a day anyway.
Oh, okay.
But the reality chip, I think the basic idea is that it enhances the abilities of planeswalkers or otherwise magical beings, basically, because Tameo throws the reality chip on after the Wanderer uses it, and suddenly Tameo can just levitate everyone and fly things all around the world. The thing that cracks me up about it is that the jellyfish thing, it seemed like a throwaway analogy, like, oh, it has these little tendrils that come out and like go into the veins of whoever is using the reality chip, kind of like a jellyfish. And like someone in card design was just like, oh, it's like a jellyfish? It is a jellyfish. Let's do it. It's a jellyfish.
So it's not a real jellyfish.
No, it's not a real
like
jellyfish
a
at all.
jellyfish.
It's just like a
Okay.
weird little thing that Tezzeret made with Jin-Gitaxias.
So it's not even supposed to be a creature in the lore.
no, it's not a creature at all.
Okay, this card is really dumb, and we're going to
Confusing.
skip it now.
No. We should at least talk about. We should say what it does.
Because it is really powerful. It is really powerful. So this is what it does. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. As long as it's attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library, and it has reconfigure for 2 and a blue. This card is being talked about as another way you could build Urza. There used to not be polymorph Urza decks, and this card might be a reason to no longer play polymorph in Urza. It needs testing.
Right.
You were thinking about playing this deck for our upcoming. What do you think about this deck card?
Sure am. So part of the reason I like this card is that once upon a time in my casual days, I accidentally discovered the Immortal Sun, Sensei's Divining Top, Future Sight combo, because those are all cards that I just incidentally like to play. And while I don't really support infinite combos in casual, that kind of stuck with me, and this is exactly the combo that invites. So this does what Future Sight does. Almost every time we see that printed, being able to play stuff off the top of your library, be it Augur of Autumn or Vizier of Imagery or Oracle of Moldiah, it's just a very powerful effect. It ends up being a ton of card draw, and I think the modality of putting it down for 2, having it block with that big old 4 tush, and then being able to combo off with it later is really appealing. It's costed right. It spreads out that 5 cost of Future Sight across 2 turns. I think it's not a great deck as a mono blue deck, but it's certainly an option.
It is definitely an option. I think with Sensei's Divining Top and a cost reducer and this card, you have a way to draw throughout your entire deck. Now, what's the unfortunate thing is you do need another creature in play also, because this has to reconfigure to something to be able to do that. And you're mono blue. How many creatures do you really want to play? A couple, but it is a pretty low mana cost, although a couple of pieces necessary combo. I think it'll work.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that just a little more in detail, because if you're considering building this deck, I think you really want to focus on the artifact producers that are creatures. So Ethereum Sculptor, Ethereum Sculptor is the dream because it costs 2. But even though Cloud Key or Helm of Awakening or some other options seem on their face to be as appealing, I actually think Jory was Familiar, which costs 4, is better than those because it is the creature that you need to equip this to.
Foundry Inspector.
Same goes for Foundry Inspector.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, yep. Yeah, so I definitely would be putting all 3 of those in this deck because that's somewhere where you want redundancy. If you can get having a creature to reconfigure 2 and reducing the cost done in 1 card, you are much better off than running separate effects.
Very powerful card. You may even see it next week. Or the week after that, whenever that video comes out. Next week. All right, Prosperous Thief is next. It's 2 and a blue for a creature human ninja. That's a 3/2. It has ninjutsu for 1 and a blue. And whenever 1 or more ninja or rogue creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token.
We got a Ninja Malcolm.
We got a Ninja Malcolm.
Yep.
I'm loving
and
this.
Rogue Malcolm.
And Rogue
too.
Malcolm. I'm loving this effect, this Malcolm effect. It seems like there are so many cards that are Malcolms and Timnas, and I really like that ability. This is another, in my opinion, auto-occlude in Eureka, especially because it's whenever 1 or more ninja deals combat damage to a player. So if there are 3 players, you'll make a treasure for each one that was dealt damage by a ninja or rogue. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and that Wizards is just doing a great job of incentivizing combat with those effects, and I think it is slowly changing how cEDH plays. We see so much more combat, and the more valuable effects like this that they print, especially at good cost, like the more we're going to see combat being rewarded, and
which I think is such a
changing.
fun part of Magic that was kind of left out of cEDH for a long time.
It is
was
nice
really
to
the
see
only
it
deck
come
that ever
back,
attacked,
yeah.
and it never really mattered besides cards. But now there are multiple different decks that are attacking for multiple different reasons, which is great.
The next one's a hell of a card. Jin Gitaxis, Progress Tyrant. This is 5 and 2 blue for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. It's a 5/5. Whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. Whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, counter that spell. This ability also only triggers once each turn.
We got Arayo.
my goodness.
is finally here on a commander. It's
7
just
mana,
7 mana
5/5.
Arayo. How do you feel about this, Tyler? I feel like this is a card that's been interesting to you a little bit.
Oh, I'm super excited. I very nearly put the original Jin Gitaxis in the mid-power cannon build that I'm currently using. This one I think certainly goes in. It's really hard to know what's coming out for it. Talking earlier, I was thinking maybe it's Wandering Archaic, even though it's much easier to cast Wandering Archaic, honestly. But the effect is just so powerful.
It does multiple things. The fact that it copies your own shit and counters your opponent's things after one spell, that's really, really good.
All of your counter spells are going to feel like Dovin's Veto,
Yeah.
and everyone is playing under the threat of, maybe they just want to hold it and wait for an opponent to cast something on their turn so that then they can get their spell in under it for free.
Yep. I honestly, I didn't even think about it's a Dovin's Veto, because since you get an extra copy, it says once each turn, but each turn, not on your turn. So
Yeah,
if you cast
each
one
turn.
counter spell on your opponent's turn, you get a copy of that counter spell, countering whatever it's countering.
So I think this is definitely at its best in interactive decks that are looking to keep mana up on opponents' turns, and when it's supporting your counter spells as well as just doubling your artifacts. But honestly, even if it was just the opponent countering ability, it would be pretty darn close to cEDH playable without even the whole first paragraph of text.
Yeah, especially with like Jeweled Lotus, there's a lot of ramp. I mean, like this is like 7-mana commanders. Like Toxrill sees a little bit of play. What if you just like mulligan until you can find as much ramp as possible and just ramp into this early as hell?
This and Arcane Laboratory then.
Yeah.
This with the Rule of Law effects is like something I'm really not looking forward to playing.
Yeah. With Arcane Laboratory is nuts,
unless
That's
you're
a hard
playing,
lock.
it's a hard lock. So like unless you're playing,
It's not.
It's not. No. So like unless you're playing Reclamation Sage. Is that the name of the 2-mana, the 3-mana 2/1 that destroys an artifact?
It locks them out of instance, sorceries, and artifacts.
Yeah, right. So if you play the creatures that can deal with it,
It locks
like it
an
helps.
opponent out of it, and it does that. It does that in a way that if they cast one, this is one where you're going to hear people say around the table, listen, if I eat the counter ability here, do you have something that's going to deal with it?
Sure,
right?
yeah.
If this opponent casts a Pongify targeting my Jin Gitaxis, does someone else have a Path to Exile so that they can actually get rid of it?
Yep.
But, if you're eating 2 pieces of removal and it's still already doubled something for you, you're in pretty good shape.
That's great. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
This is a hysterical way to gain card advantage in that way.
Yeah, it is almost. Yeah, it's almost certainly a must kill, and it's difficult to kill also.
Yes.
Yeah.
which is a good combination.
Definitely.
The only issue is with this card is there have been a lot of good 7-drops seeing print recently, and 7-drops only normally see play in decks that are looking to get like specific things, and there's just a lot of competition, Hullbreak Horror and stuff like that. But nonetheless, especially in mid-power Kirin decks like that, when you want like a mass of enormous creatures that you can like figure out how to cheat in, this is definitely a good addition.
Don't think you'll see it in a lot of decks, but the decks that you do see it in, they're really going to utilize it. Yeah. Next card is Reality Heist. Talk about a 7-mana spell. This is 5 and 2 blue for an instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control, so it helps. But you get to look at the top 7 cards of your library. You can reveal up to 2 artifact cards from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order.
Artifact dig through time? Is it good enough?
I don't like that comparison, and here's the reason. You're not going to have 5 artifacts very often, so it costs less, but the big appeal of Dig Through Time, aside from the fact that you're picking any cards from among them, is that you can very reasonably expect to cast it using Delve for the entire generic mana cost. And here, I don't think you can expect to cast that. So if the reality is that you're probably casting it for 4 mana or even 3 mana, I don't think it feels good enough most of the time. I think your artifact tutors like Fabricate. If Fabricate routinely costs the same as this spell costs, I want Fabricate over this spell every single time.
Yep.
Right?
I think Urza is the only deck that would play this. Would you play this in Urza?
Not right off. I would force someone else to test it and tell me that it's good. Like
Let's
I
move
wouldn't
on.
want to know.
Yeah, Urza is the only deck that I can imagine this being close to.
What this
Let's skip
heist
it.
needs is a reality check, really.
Real quick, we're going to take a quick break to talk about our sponsor, Moxfield. Moxfield is without a doubt the best site for brewing and building your Magic the Gathering decks. They're constantly adding new features like enhanced tagging to help with organizing your deck and collection, drag and drop across views for easier sorting, and one of my favorite features, the compare function, which lets you easily compare decks to see the differences. Above all else, it's easy to use and it looks great. Make sure to use Moxfield for all your deck lists, just like we do. Otherwise, I won't be able to read your deck.
We're gonna talk about the next card in a cycle that I'm excited to see finished. This is Dockside Chef.
Obviously, they're all equally powered so far.
They are. This is a 1 black mana for a 1/2 enchantment creature human citizen. Creature type, citizen. 1 in a black for a 1 in a black to sacrifice an artifact or creature and draw a card.
This effect exists already on Vampiric Rites, but this can sacrifice artifacts instead. That one gains life. This one's on a creature. It's not very good. I just put it in here because Dockside Extortionist is part of that cycle.
You guys are so silly.
It is like powerful if you have like Underworld Breach out and Dockside Extortionist.
I was gonna say
if you
make
keep on sacrifice your Dockside, cast it again. I mean, like that's good,
true.
but like
I was gonna say
this Viscera is just better.
if you make infinite mana off of Dockside, you can draw your deck with this then, right? So that's
it's another card that combos with Dockside Extortionist.
right. 2 Docksides should be able to work together.
A card that can use infinite mana. It's so crazy.
Wow. Yeah, we don't have any of those.
Yeah, we can move on quickly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okaiba Reckoner Raid. Okiba. I'm going to say Okaiba because I'm pretty sure that's how Seto spells his name. 1 black for an enchantment saga. The first 2 chapters say each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. And for the 3rd chapter, you get to exile the saga and then return it to the battlefield transformed as Nezumi Road Captain. This is an enchantment creature, Rat Rogue. It's a 2/2 with Menace, and it says vehicles you control have Menace.
Is Belby still a deck?
Belby's on the database somewhere.
If it is, this card goes in Belby and nowhere else because of the pinging 3 opponents for 1 mana. That is an effect that Belby wants.
Actually really good in Belby. You have to time it very specifically,
You
but
have to have it open in your opener, but it's really good in your opener.
yeah, exactly. All right. You Are Already Dead is something I'm excited to say a lot. It's a 1 black mana for an instant. It says destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn. Draw a card. I can't believe this cantrips.
This is really, I just put this in here because it's the default name every time anyone casts Demonic Constellation.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I don't know how good the actual effect
Just
is.
for the record,
yeah.
like, I can't believe this cantrip. Nashi Moonsage Scion. This is 1 and 2 black for a 3/2 legendary creature Rat Ninja. It is ninjutsu for 3 into black, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of each player's library. Until end of turn, you may play 1 of those cards. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost.
I'm
Holy
currently
cow.
testing this card in Eureka. I'm not sure that's going to be good enough. Its effect is you don't get to really decide much on it, but getting to cast something for free just with the life total. Eureka doesn't use its life total for really anything else, so that's pretty good. The ninjutsu cost is a lot though, but this effect is potentially powerful. Only one of your opponent's spells is not great, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
So in Eureka, I think has the most reasonable chance. The rest of the time, I mean, it's great to pay with life, but 4 mana is a lot. I feel like if that effect was that good, we might even see Gonti in cEDH. And
we
I mean,
don't.
Gonti, you can't pay with life.
Yeah.
Even so, you have to get the damage through with this. It's not an ETB. So
It's
I don't
the
know.
paying with
Gonti
life
lets
part
you,
that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gonti also lets you cast the card for forever. This card only gives you until the end of that turn.
Yeah.
So if you exile like a ton of counter magic, you're screwed.
Yep.
Yeah, we can move on. I'm not sure how great this one is, so I don't want to invest a lot of more time in it, but the effect is potentially powerful. Bolas Citadel is strong, and this is a weaker version of that. Maybe it's good enough.
So red is next. Experimental Synthizer is not a keyboard, and I'm very upset about this. It's red for an artifact, which could be a keyboard. Whenever Experimental Synthesizer enters or leaves the battlefield, exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. Then for 2 and a red, you can sacrifice it to create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance. Activate this only as a sorcery.
Cam, I'll alter one for you and just write Roland on the corner of the art. It'll be fine.
I appreciate that.
This card is really not very good. The only thing that's interesting about it is if you are already running the World Gorger Dragon combo with Animate Dead or a similar effect, and you do not have an infinite mana outlet in your commander or command zone, this is an option that lets you get through your whole deck, and as long as you can find a win with infinite mana and every card in your deck, which I sure hope you can, that'll get you there. But really, why are you playing World Gorger Dragon combo if you don't have an infinite mana outlet in the command zone? So
Moving on. March of Reckless Joy. This is X and red for an instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may exile any number of red cards from your hand, and this spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. Exile the top X cards of your library. You may play up to 2 of those cards until the end of your next turn. Very specific wording that you have to hone in on with this.
This is the last of the marches that we'll talk about. The green one doesn't work in our format, and the black one's not very good. This one is good for the same reason that I said for the other ones. Post ad nauseum, you can get rid of some of your red spells that maybe don't do anything anymore to go a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, it's also an infinite mana win, right? So if you have
That's true.
Thassa's Oracle in your deck and either want backup or something to make it uncounterable or whatever it may be, if you're able to exile your whole deck, as long as Oracle is in there somewhere, you use this, cast it for Giant X, exile your entire deck, and then you're allowed to play 2 cards. So you play Thassa's Oracle and whatever your backup is, and there you go. If you have infinite mana, you might want better ways to win than using this card, but it's an option, it's in there, and it's not like red-blue decks aren't good, so...
I was about to say, yeah, you can do like Thassa's Oracle, and your second card can be Demonic Consultation, but you just exiled your whole deck. Why would you want Demonic Consultation then?
Cameron, you just want to say you're already dead so bad, don't you?
That's all. Next card is Scrap Welder. This is 2 and a red for a 3/3 creature Goblin Artificer. You can tap it and sacrifice an artifact with mana value X to return target artifact card with mana value less than X from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it gains haste until end of turn.
Is a 3-mana worse Goblin Welder good?
No.
I don't know. I don't think so.
No, wait, I can spoil this for you. It's not. It's too much. It's too much for that effect.
It's really the only Godo wants a lot of this effect. Godo already plays Goblin Welder. Godo already plays Goblin Engineer. Those are 1 and 2 mana. This is 3.
Now, the problem is that this guy's only working with the scrap, whereas like the other ones have like the good metals. This guy's got scrap, and it shows in his card.
Yeah, and at 3 mana in Godo, I think you just want to cast like a big mana rock, mana rock that generates a bunch more positive mana.
Yeah.
There's a lot better ones.
This is just an effect that we already play in cEDH just for a mana value that's maybe too high, but if you really want to double up, I don't know.
Our final red card is Invoke Calamity. This is 1 and 4 red for an instant that says you may cast up to 2 instant and/or sorcery spells with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard and/or hand without paying their mana cost. If those spells would be put into your graveyard, exile them instead. Exile Invoke Calamity.
This is a great card to convert Jeska's Will resources if you're in a deck that can make a lot of red mana but can't always do everything with the red mana.
That's a good point. I feel like there's a lot of times, even like in Jeska Ishai, where I'm like, if this was blue or white mana, like this would be spectacular for me.
Yeah, and it does let you go up on mana. This is 5 mana, and it lets you cast total 6 CMC, so you do get to kind of ramp, which is kind of nice. I'm picturing this in a deck that is playing Peer into the Abyss, but not ad nauseum. It seems like we're getting more and more of cards that are good in ad nauseum style decks, but cost too much mana. Eventually, I'm assuming that we'll get to a point where there'll be a surplus of those, and we'll just go all in on Peer into the Abyss and forgo the actual mana cost of the cards, and just be able to ritual all the way up into Peer or something.
Yeah, I mean, my only issue with this is that you really have to have a way to fill your graveyard first, because you don't want your plan for this card to be, well, it'll be great in the end game if we're on turn 7. So it has a high ceiling, definitely, but it also has a really low floor.
Yeah, this can absolutely do nothing at all, which can feel terrible. So it has to be in a very specific deck, but if you can resolve this in the right deck, in the right situation, Christmas Land, yada yada, can do powerful things.
Probably great in Burgi.
Probably great in Burgi.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we only have 1 green creature, and that's Kadama of the West Tree.
The cycle is complete.
Yes, it
Yay.
is finally.
Yeah.
Finally. Oh my God. How many years? 15 years?
I
it
don't
took?
know. So many.
Something like that. 2 and a green. For a legendary creature Spirit, it's a 3/3 with reach. It says modified creatures you control have trample. This is our first time seeing modified. Equipment, auras, and
1/1 counters.
1/1 counters are all modifications. Actually, -1/-1 counters are also modifications. Charge counters are also modifications.
All counters, yeah.
Is it all
Yeah,
counters?
it is. It
Yeah,
says
I
and
read it, yeah.
counters. Yeah, it says and counters. Yeah. Whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Holy cow!
I didn't realize it was all counters. I need to say that there is a flavor lose here for Wizards. They are
really?
undermining themselves.
Yeah.
The
Some counters can be bad.
No, the original Kami in the OG Kamigawa set came in with divinity counters, and kind of the thing with the Kami is that they're not about the modifications, and that's part of the tension that they're doing. So to me, this is a flavor lose. If a card that enters with a divinity counter is considered modified, then man, Kamigawa just implodes into
that's true.
rubble.
Yeah, that doesn't
it's
exactly
over.
work.
That
It's
would have been
over.
hard, that would have been weird to put on the card, like equipment, auras you control, and counters that are not divinity counters.
not divinity counters.
This card ramps hard in the right deck. I don't think Hamza is quite a cEDH deck, but it's getting a lot more pieces. If you have a lot of 1 mana or 0 mana creatures that come in with a +1/+1 counter, you can pile them up. This one can ramp you really far. It's a strong effect. I just don't know where it goes yet.
I think it's a very exciting casual card too.
Yeah.
Not a casual channel, but gotta say, with landfall abilities that can add 1/1 counters to creatures, that definitely gets you pretty far.
Definitely, absolutely.
Our next card is filled with words that, or filled with a word that Wizards totally made up. Enthusiastic Mechanaut, which is I'm assuming a mechanic.
Like an astronaut.
Astronaut. But when you Google Mechanaut, there's no definition
Nothing
for what a
comes out.
Mechanaut is.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's because you can't find it on Google. You actually have to go to a steampunk convention and ask someone. That's
You know what? You're right. I didn't prepare for this well enough.
Yeah. There.
This is our first multicolor card. This is a blue and a red for a 2/2 flyer. It's an artifact creature, Goblin Artificer, and it just says artifact spells you control artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast.
It's a shame that you can't put this in your jellyfish deck.
Just thinking that too.
You know, it's a shame, but even if I could, one colorless and one blue pip is much better than one colored pip and another colored pip of a different color.
This definitely goes in El Shatop, though. That deck also requires that type of artifact reduction ability because it's winning with Sensei's Divining Top. I think this one is, I don't know, but I think it's got to be an auto include in that deck.
Yep, Electromancer effects are fine.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say. Jukai Naturalist is our next card. It's a green and a white for an enchantment creature human monk. That's a 2/2. It has lifelink and it says enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast.
Speaking of Electromancer effects,
More and more of these Enchantress cards. Eventually, we're gonna have a deck that's really good.
Right? This totally goes in Synthizer. I don't know. That's what I would imagine.
Yeah.
The next.
Also, it's like obviously smoking weed. That's super funny.
Obviously smoking
It's got a
weed.
big
Yeah.
ass pipe.
This is obviously.
I know it's supposed to be a fluke,
right?
but what's coming out of there?
That's
I mean,
definitely
he's smoking
smoke.
weed.
This was a green card intentionally.
I mean, did you read the flavor text too? Because it definitely implies that he's like a hermit hippie type. So
He had heard rumors of the cities, the constant noise, the stagnant air, the tainted water, and he had no wish to learn if they were true.
Yeah, he's just a hippie in the forest smoking weed.
big time.
Yeah, he can grow his own out there. Hinata Dawn Crowned is the next one. This is 1 blue, red, and white for a 4/4 legendary creature, Kieran Spirit. It's a flying trampler with Flample. And it says spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each target. And spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast for each target.
Oh boy, yeah. So I played against this on our last play day. Nick on our channel was running this deck, and there's a new thing to fear in Kinnan that I didn't know I was afraid of. If you cast Heliod's Intervention with this, you get to blow up all artifacts and enchantments that you do not control. It is a one-sided board wipe, and that is nuts. It's not the only card that it makes great like that. So there's Aurelius Fury and other cards that target many things that just get phenomenal that you would normally never be able to run. So it's great in that respect, and the tax on opponent spells is also really good. I mean, having a one-sided Thalia for 60% of their spells that target is quite strong.
And you'd be surprised how many things target. I feel like this card actually reads worse than it performs. You mentioned like Savine's Reclamation, like targets 2 things when it's in your graveyard.
Intuition, yeah,
Right?
targets player.
Yeah, like there's a lot of really powerful spells that already see play that like this will just make even better too.
There's a lot of competition in the Jeskai slot. There's Jessica Ishai, there's Elsha, but I think this is another option if you're especially going into like a mid-range meta. This card seems really good. I feel like it's good against Kinnan. Right?
It's very strong mid-range. Yeah, I think this deck wants to be doing breach things and run only the stacks that it can play through and not a ton of stacks, and it works reasonably well under stacks. Yeah, it's solid mid-range. As you noted before, it probably loses to ad nauseum decks. I think it's just not quite fast enough to keep up with that.
I was mentioning it before we were recording that this doesn't really do anything against ad nauseum decks. So if you're in a pod where there's like multiple ad nauseums, you're not really doing much, but you're in blue, you can play Spell Pierce, you can do things to prepare, you know what I mean? Don't tap out when you know your Naz opponents are going to try to win, etc. But this, although it doesn't give you actual card advantage or a combo piece in the command zone, which are normally the 2 things that we're looking for, this does give you like ramp in a weird way, which is the 3rd thing that we're looking for. And in my opinion, this is kind of like a haymaker, simply because it makes some effects so fucking powerful. Any X effect that can target multiple things is just the non-X, is just the mana pips for it, and you can target everything. That's really fucking good with this card.
It's got a solid body too.
Yeah.
I mean, a 4-mana 4/4 like that is gonna block everything that is gonna come at you.
You can trade with Crom.
Yeah, right. It's gonna hit everyone for a bunch of damage when they don't want it to. I'm excited about it. Be ready to possibly see it next week too.
Yeah.
Speaking of cards, you might also see next week, Chorokai, Genesis Engine.
Sorry, can we say one more thing about Hinata?
Oh yeah.
I just think it's worth noting, because this occasionally comes up with other cards, that when your opponent's spells cost 1 more to cast, that also means that their counter spells that are trying to stop your other opponents from winning cost more to cast. So there is a little bit of potential to bite you in the butt there. We see this with other effects that basically prevent players from playing at instant speed. You're kind of inviting the one opponent to win. So
Yeah,
a little bit of caution.
3 mana to Fairy, 3
even think
Fairy
about
is
that.
bad for this reason. I think if you're open, if you're talking with your pod and you kind of remind them that this effect is in play and tell them to not tap out, that can be good for you. But you're right that it can definitely bite you in the ass.
I forgot about counterspells with this.
Yeah,
like
counterspells
delay.
target.
Delay is a
Counterspells target.
1-mana counterspell with this in play.
Yeah.
That is one of its great strengths, is
Yeah.
that your interaction is very cheap.
Wow. Yeah. There's so many like 2-mana counters that people are like, there were two, like a blue and a colorless counter that people are like, I don't want to play that.
Definitely
but like,
play delay in this deck.
Remand might actually even be pretty good too, right?
Maybe.
Right?
I don't know.
It makes Fierce Guardianship cost -1, so you add 1 mana to your mana pool.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
Chorokai, Genesis Engine, is 2 a white and a blue for an 8/8 legendary artifact vehicle. What? It has an effect that says, for 1 and to tap it, you can draw 2 cards and discard a card, and create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with this creature crew's vehicles as though its power were 2 greater, meaning 3. This is crew 8, and it can be your commander. Oh, that's why it's here.
Yeah, this is a deck that I've been working on. This is a commander that I've been working on for our upcoming video. I think Chorokai offers a lot in a blue-white strategy. Number 1, it's a great Isochron Scepter. It's a great Isochron Rev deck. You can make infinite mana and untap your artifacts, and you can draw through your entire deck. It also works really great with Polymorph, since it makes another pilot. You can polymorph away your pilot's token to go get your Hullbreaker Horror, and then after you've bouncing back and forth on Manafact rocks, you can. After bouncing back and forth on mana rocks, you can bounce your Chorokai and cast it and tap it immediately. Since it's not a creature, it doesn't need haste or anything, so you can draw through your deck that way. There's a couple different ways to set up easy wins, and also you get to play Supreme Verdict in a control deck, which is something that I think might be good in cEDH. I don't know. I'm looking forward to trying it. I think this card can do a lot in a blue-white strategy. It really lets you lean into blue-white control, which a lot of other commanders haven't let you lean into that before. It could also be good as like a stacks commander or other things.
Very exciting. I also want to ask, so this is the first artifact that says it can be your commander?
Correct.
Is that right?
The
Maybe.
only other card
Planeswalkers have had
type
this
was
before.
Planeswalker.
Well, Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
I mean, there are legendary enchantment creatures. Do we
Yeah.
have a land that can be your commander? Am I forgetting something?
No.
Westville Abbey should be able to be, but it can't.
I want that day to come.
Here's a card that's just freaking awesome. It's a Colossal Sky Turtle. It's 4 and 2 green for... I'm sorry, no. It's 4, 2 green and a blue for an enchantment creature turtle. It is flying in Ward 2 and has 2 channel abilities. You can either pay a green and 2 to discard it and return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. I'm sorry, no, it's just return target card. It's regrowth. Or you can channel it for 1 and a blue to return target creature to its owner's hand.
It's regrowth or unsummon.
It is uncounterable regrowth at instant speed.
or
And
unsummon.
uncounterable unsummon.
Yeah, it's more expensive, one more than both of those things, but that's kind of okay. I feel like the floor, like it does kind of a lot of things uncounterable. This is the same thing with like the Ad Nauseam I was talking about, although obviously 7 pips, this is a nightmare in Ad Nauseam, but if you're in like a Peer into the Abyss deck that doesn't care about them and you just want to peer for your whole deck and draw some type of channel spell that can get rid of, the stacks pieces afterwards, or just, do you play this in Kirin? No.
You do
'Cause
not
you don't
want a
really
6/5
care about it,
beater.
right?
So
Yeah, it doesn't
I mean,
matter.
like I think anytime you're playing this in cEDH, you are never, ever, 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 ever going to cast it as a creature.
Probably,
so
yeah.
it is always a modal spell that has 2 sides, and they're both more or less uncounterable. As we've discussed, channel abilities are bonkers. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Great.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what like specifically Simic deck would want this. And like the first thing I thought of was, for some reason, Rashmi, but Rashmi doesn't want this.
No, Rashmi wants to cast spells, so Rashmi actually doesn't want this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think either effects replace the things that do them better, like Noxious Revival or anything like that. It's just the ability to have either. The problem is that they're a little on the expensive side, and usually your regrowth isn't going to get targeted anyway. It's the thing you return that's going to get targeted.
Right.
So I have a feeling this doesn't quite make the cut, but it's worth mentioning because channel.
Yeah,
channel is so
powerful
good.
abilities. Channel is a powerful ability when it does things. Last time around, Channel didn't really do anything. It was like a draft mechanic basically. At least from what the cards that I saw. No, they never did anything. When it's removal, it's really good. Yeah, really.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything on the lands in this one, but
Yeah, lands suck.
lands suck.
All right, our final card before we start to talk about how shitty these lands are is going to be Containment Construct. This is 2 mana for an artifact creature construct. It's a 2/1, and whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn.
This card's fucking nuts.
This card is
my gosh.
nuts, right? So
in Wheel of Fortune decks,
Yep.
in Lion's Eye Diamond decks, with so many cards and commanders, this card does a lot of things.
And it goes back to your graveyard after you use it. So it's not even like...
Use it again.
Right? Yeah, so it's not even like it hurts Underworld Breach.
Right,
Like, it helps.
Wheel of Fortune, cast it with the Underworld Breach in your hand. Discard the Underworld Breach, the Wheel of Fortune, and exile with this guy. Cast the Underworld Breach, and if there's like something else, you can cast it from exile, goes to your graveyard, and then cast it again with Underworld Breach.
Yeah, it's very, very, very strong. And then on top of that, I have a pet deck that is a discard deck, Tiny Bones.
Tiny Bones! Oh my god, holy hell!
Ways to break parity on discard effects, which doesn't come up that often, but boy, is that going to feel phenomenal.
It's easy to cast. You can cast it off of a crypt. You can even attack with it with Tymna if you're doing that.
What I'm excited to see is in like another 3 years when they print a card that goes infinite with this. Like right now, you need to be in Vintage to go infinite with like 4 LEDs.
Oh, sure, yeah.
There is a line that can get you some sort of win off of this,
the blue
but
guy, I don't know
it
very well.
requires multiple Lion's Eye Diamonds is the problem. But this...
I'm almost positive that there is probably a way to break this guy right now. I'm just not smart enough to figure out what it is. I'm sure in a week we'll figure it out, but someone will tweet about it. But I think this card is going to do a lot.
One other card I want to mention that I think is phenomenal with this is Burning Inquiry. I think it is.
I should have mentioned Burning
It's
Inquiry.
such a good card.
Yeah.
It's a pet card for me too because it sometimes feels like disruption. The like Hymn to Turok effect of like your opponents don't know what they're discarding makes it very appealing to play like sometimes turn 1 just to fuck with your opponent's hands. And if you get to take the cards that you're discarding and play them if you need them, it makes it much better.
Yes, definitely. I completely agree. I completely agree.
Love that. All right, we're going to talk about the defining card of Kamigawa.
Yeah, this is the card that 100% will see play in cEDH without a doubt.
This is the village hidden in the rain. Looks just like it, man. I'm telling you. Between Hinata... What
the hell is that?
It's from Naruto. Between Hinata being referenced and the one ninja with the mouths in its hands being a Daidara reference, this is like 100% like big Naruto fans working at Wizards getting into this.
It's gotta be.
So this is Boseiju Who Endures. Boseiju Who Endures. This is a legendary land that taps for green mana, just
That comes in untapped.
that, by the way, yeah. This you can channel for 1 and a green to destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land an opponent controls. That player may search their library for a land card with a basic land type. That's a weird way to say that.
So you can search for Tundra since it has an
You can
island
search for
type.
Triomes.
Yeah,
That's
you can
funny.
search for Triomes.
I like that. Okay. They had a different way to say that before. Why do we have to change it? It's fine. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So, by the way, this is 1 mana if your commander is in play.
Nature's Claim is already a card that sees play. This is almost certainly going to do more than Nature's Claim because 1, this can hit a land, 2, it's uncounterable. For the reasons that we've been talking about Channel being really good, this is the best version of it.
Where's activate this ability only as a sorcery? Like,
Yeah.
that's exactly what you would see on this
Or
kind of card.
having the land come in tapped or
Right,
something,
like those are
right?
2 major drawbacks that just are missing.
Yeah. Everyone has said it. Everyone already knows who's been paying
card in the
attention.
set.
This card is by far the most busted card in the set. It is going to break multiple It is going to be a critical staple in multiple formats that it absolutely always gets played in every deck that is playing this color.
Premium removal.
Yep.
Yet another way to be able to add Naws into a rule of law and feel confident.
I would play this in a 5-color Kenrith deck or something. I'm not playing it in every single deck ever. There are certain green decks that I might not, but very few and far between. I think this goes in most decks if you're playing green at all.
Ikra Brews, because that'll come up a lot.
The main reason it can get rid of Rule of Law without casting a spell. That way, just to reiterate the main reason why this one specifically is good, you can get rid of stacks pieces uncounterably and not as your spell cast, which is going to be very powerful.
The white land is Ijango, Seed of the Empire. It's also a legendary land, but it taps for white, and you can channel it for 2 and a white, and it will deal 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. And it also costs 1 less to cast for each legendary creature you control. So with your commander in play, this is like Gideon's Retribution. They printed that card.
Yep.
a ton.
And from here on, we'll kind of notice they balance them a little bit more. This effect is 3. It's very specific removal, but even still, if you're in mono white, 100% this goes in your deck auto-include if you're playing cEDH. And if you're in like 2 colors in white, this probably also sees play. If once you get to 3 colors, then you probably start to question this card, but even still, I don't know. It's pretty good. Even it just adds a remove. It can kill Crom. I mean,
Yeah, the original of these cycles sees play. I have Minamo in my Minamo is the blue one from the original cycle of these lands, which also act like basics. They come in on tap
probably
for
a
that
card
color.
that should see more play, to be honest.
Yeah, as a side note, if you're running Gaia's Cradle and not Minamo in a blue-green deck that is less than 4 colors, you're wrong. Sorry, you're wrong. Because those lands play so well together. But yeah, that and I think the black one, Shinka, that gives fear.
Fear.
Also,
I played in Eureka.
Yeah, also
Solid.
perfectly playable. And
Yeah.
these lands are probably just better than that first cycle, which
Yeah,
is really
a lot
scary.
of them
Well,
are.
hands down. I mean, Adawara is the next one. It's the Saurian City. The blue one that channels for 3 into blue to return target artifact, creature, or enchantment or planeswalker.
4 mana for that effect is a lot, but if
3
you have
mana
your
with your
commander, it's
commander.
a 3 mana, which is still kind of a lot. You need another thing to make it really good. And
By
then
the way,
if you have 3, it's
partners
insane.
in play, if you have partners in play, this is 2 mana less. Like, that's just something else that's going to come up a lot more with this one versus the white one.
Yep. Yeah.
Again, like another way to balance a rule of law effect without having to cast a spell. Just, I mean, worse than Beseiju, but still a way.
I don't play this one in every blue deck. I'm probably not playing it in like 4 color, 5 color blue decks. I don't think, just because it's gonna be the land way more often than you're gonna channel this one. I think because 3 mana for that effect is just a lot. But when you need it, it's gonna be really good.
Yeah, it is a great effect that hits a lot of different things, and even though it's expensive, once again, stuff that has the text uncounterable is almost always worth at least 1 mana more, and channel is very close to uncounterable most of the time.
Yeah, definitely.
You'll need to stifle the effect, and not many people play that.
The red one is Kenzen, Crucible of Defiance. This one lets you channel for 3 in a red to create 2 1/1 colorless spirit creature tokens that gain haste until end of turn. And then the black one, I'm just going to fire right off into that one here. This one is Tekanuma, Abandoned Mire. This is another 3 into black to channel it to mill 3 cards, then return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. And again, both of those have the same legendary creature
These ones
clause.
are the worst ones, I think. They probably only go in monocolor decks, or if you're specifically looking to like make tokens or mill stuff. But even then, it's probably questionable. These effects are not very good, but just for the simple fact that at their lowest, they are an untapped land. They're an auto include in monocolor decks, I think.
Yep. We're not, but if you are playing to win in Modern, Takenuma and Ren and 6
Okay.
is very
yeah.
good.
Okay,
Returns Ren and
okay.
6 from your graveyard. Yeah, these are already a
All
huge
of them
problem
with
with
Ren and 6
in
yeah.
Modern.
Yeah. It's definitely
Who
gonna-
would have thought a 2 mana planeswalker with a bunch of good
Stinky.
abilities
Right,
was good?
yeah.
That's so crazy.
Ugh.
Ren and 6 and Beseiju specifically is like gonna mess
Jesus,
things
yeah,
up.
holy hell.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's already the colors. Like this is gonna like can we build Modern Jund again and like get back into that format? Because this seems like something I want to be doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of good cards in this set. I feel like we talked about a ton of cards. We've been talking for an hour and 15, an hour at this point about a lot of these cards. There's probably other cards that we're missing. As always, we're going to miss some cards, but these were kind of the cards that we thought were the most powerful and would almost certainly see play somewhere along the lines in some type of cEDH deck.
Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us, you can do so directly here at Patreon, like our $50 patrons.
Adrian Grimm, Byron Wang, Cameron James, CZ, Jacob Depp, Jan Wildfang, Jared Silver, Jason Jarvis, Jormags, Julius Cortana, Kai Hornisher, Faji Ahamid, Moxfield, Peter Larson, Reese Uker, C, Swampy McGee, Tommy the Oddball, Vapor Snag, Ugly, and Baby Jeebus.
Baby Jeebus!
Baby Jeebus.
Baby Jeebus.
Check out our Bonfire store for our t-shirts, sweatshirts, and all of our other merch.
Our Author Sleeves affiliate link still gets you 5% off your order, so check that out down below.
If you want to check out any of the cards that we talked about today, you can do so at the Moxfield link down below. Go through there.
If you want to pick up any Dragon Shield product, you can do so at our Dragon Shield affiliate link.
And we have playmats, coins, and tokens available at playtowinmtg.com, so check out our website too.
Thanks for watching.
See you next time.
Bye.